go take a look at some roots. One of the reasons why we're looking at roots today is we want to make sure we're not having any rootworm feeding. Corn rootworm is an insect that's been a big problem for us in the Corn Belt for many, many years. It's been called the billion-dollar bug. One reason why we haven't talked about it a whole lot in the last 15 years is corn rootworm traits. Corn rootworm traits have done a great job of holding this pest back. But in the last few years, between corn prices getting a little worse and traits not performing as well, just because of the bug pressure, we've seen a shift back away from traits. A lot more double pros, and even some conventionals in southeast Minnesota and northeast Iowa. But to make sure that we're not having any problems, we need to do some actual physical digging in these cornfields to make sure we're not having this thing catch up on us. The last thing we want to do is have down corn because we skimped on our traits. So today, with a shovel and a pail and some water, we're going to do a root dig. We're going to see what we have for rootworm damage and if there's any rootworm feeding on these plants. So we're going to do three things. We're going to go out in the field, we're going to dig some roots out, we're going to wash some roots, and then we're going to evaluate what those root scores look like. So first thing first, let's get in the field. Okay, so we're in the cornfield right now. You gotta go over there, Brady. You can actually show the guys the corn from before. There's our corn challenge, cardinal corn challenge. But we're kind of close to that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna dig down around these plants. I'm gonna try to get two. And we're gonna try to dig this base as wide as we can because this root for this corn is definitely a lot wider than the plant itself. And hopefully I don't wreck the shovel. It's getting a little dry out here all of a sudden. But we want to try to go around it quite a ways into the middle and go down as deep as we can physically get the shovel. Now just a little bit of background on this. This is corn on bean ground. In our test plot, we are planting a 101-day double pro corn, so that means there is no corn rootworm underneath. This double pro, so that's corn borer, which is above ground protection, and Roundup Ready. So you can see I'm trying to get as wide as I can so we don't prune any of the roots at that point. And there they go. There. I need a little bit of a rain here, Brady. So you can see we got the fibrous roots going down. That'll help brace and grab more moisture and more nutrients. And you can see up top there's plenty of the nice little fibrous roots coming off the braces. And then we have the brace roots here. Brace roots will give us extra stability so this corn plant doesn't flop over. And because this thing gets heavy especially when you get a 250 bushel ear on it. So we just like to make sure we do a quick evaluation of this corn root before we take it out of here. I did cut a little bit here, digging it out, and that's one thing you got to be careful on, is to make sure we don't prune those roots. So now we're going to get out of this field. We're going to go put this stuff in a bucket, let it soak, and clean off the roots. Step two was to soak these roots. We've been soaking these for about 10 minutes now, and we want to make sure that the roots are nice and clean. I got this one cleaned up pretty good. I'm going to just make sure this one is cleaned up as well. So you can see the water is just pretty muddy from just soaking here. These have been soaking for about 10 minutes, like I said. So you can see we got some nice penetrating roots going down deep. You can actually see the corn kernel. Can you see that, Brady? So that's actually where that's the corn kernel from this spring. So if we take a measure that down, it'll be about 2.5 inches below the surface of the ground. You can kind of see that you got these nice fibrous roots. So those fibrous roots are going to be the ones that help get the nutrients in. These will help bring in some more water and some nutrients and stability, these longer, deeper roots. The fibrous ones definitely help pick up things like nitrogen, potassium, sulfur. phosphorus, you know, main macros. The other thing is I'm not really seeing much for root pruning on here, so we're going to talk about step 3 is evaluation. Evaluation, we want to just see if there's anything going on with the roots on any level. So that includes pruning from rootworms, sidewall compaction, anything that's inhibiting roots. And I'm really not seeing a whole lot. We are maybe seeing a little bit of a sandwiching near the top, just because of the spring we had probably packed down a little bit harder than we'd like. But I'm not seeing a sidewall compaction. That would cause the roots to go like a mohawk. That would be too much down pressure or sidewall smearing from the planter itself. So these roots and stuff look pretty healthy for a corn plant this size. And if we can just take a look at maybe what's in the water, just to see once if there's anything floating in there. And it's one of those things when you do something like this that you hope you find what you want to find. We're not finding much for rootworm larvae here in this bucket. In fact, I really haven't found anything at this point. Rootworm larvae, they will float on top. They're lighter than water at that point. There'll be little white worms at this time, or at this stage, at the first and second instar. Now, one thing, if you do have a check on that, we can go out here and just bring some table salt from the house and throw it on there. They'll dance because of the table salt. It's a reaction to the sodium and the chloride in the table salt. They just cannot stand that on their skin. But we're not seeing much of that in there. So looking forward, why is this important? Well, obviously we want to make sure that these plants are at a good stage for both roots and for ear development. We want to make sure that this part of the plant has enough moisture, has enough nutrients to put on a nice ear and a nice tassel. This corn right here is pretty close to tassel at this point. We're about 5 leaves away from tassel on this test plot. So if we use our math from the other day, we're probably about 10 days to 2 weeks from tassel. So these plants will be ready to pollinate here in 2 weeks plus. So we got to make sure that we have plenty of moisture and plenty of nutrients available for these corn plants. If there were some root pruning on these things, obviously there isn't a whole lot we can do at this point. But one thing we can do is to make sure this is harvested at a little earlier part of the schedule, so we don't have any root lodging later in the year and we got to go try to pick it up with a corn reel. So like I said, we're going to try to do a root dig here. We didn't find any rootworms, which is good. I'm okay with that, but it's one of those things we need to kind of watch as the season goes on. We'll kind of evaluate this plot as she goes, but so far I think we're going to be okay on the rootworm for the test plot, but we'll go from there. Any questions or anything, please give me or any of the other Northern Country agronomists a call, and we'll catch you next time.